This is Tammy Bauer with Pearsoft. We're going to get started right on the hour, but I wanted to let you know that we're here and we'll start the presentation right on the hour, which is in just about 1 minute if you're on the line.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I know a few of you are still joining our webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started because we have a short amount of time. I'm going to pass it over to Tammy Bauer, our speaker.
Great. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are. I want to welcome you to today's webcast. It's time to unlock more efficiencies in GP, Dynamics GP, with PaperSave. And I'm going to be showing you today the version 7 of PaperSave. Some of you might be on that, some of you might not be, but we're going to be reviewing the OCR, optical character recognition, along with the workflow capabilities of PaperSave. I looked at the registration list and see some of you on. It's great to see some of the familiar faces and names, not faces, but at least names of customers that I dealt with during the initial sales process. So I'm glad that you've joined us and to learn more about what PaperSave has to offer. So for those of you that this might look familiar, this is PaperSave 7. PaperSave 7 is our cloud-based application. If you're not on 7, I encourage you to speak to your account manager and get migrated and upgraded to 7. There are a lot of great features and functionality. And as we talked, today we're going to go over the OCR, the optical character recognition. So I am an admin in my system and I get to see and do everything. And so my homepage of PaperSave might look different than somebody who might just need to approve a document in a workflow. But we're going to take us through today kind of the day in the life of an invoice. That's what the OCR covers. Optical character recognition is part of what we refer to as the AP transaction automation piece. So it's really the front end of that component of PaperSave. Some of you on the line might be using a piece of PaperSave called auto entry, where somebody's manually adding data into fields in a workflow. And then at the end, accounting doesn't have to do that data entry. They just hit a button. Well, OCR actually removes the need for somebody to do that manual data entry. And so we're going to start capturing some documents and you're going to see them come across into my workflow and what the OCR captures and what it doesn't capture and what can be modified and what can't be modified and all of that good stuff. So the first step in any process is capturing the documents into the system. So PaperSave allows the ability to set up our system to monitor an email address. And this is your email address. So if you've got invoices coming to you to an email address, PaperSave can look to that email address and automatically pull documents in. So I'm going to go to my Outlook here and I'm just going to create a real quick email. I'm going to send it to my make-believe accounts payable. And because I have PaperSave for a lot of accounting systems, I do need to tell it it's for GP. But we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to attach a document to it. So let's pull in Fujitsu. So let's say that this document is being emailed to me or to you from your vendor. It's going to end up in your folder that AP invoice is related to. And actually it's going to show up here. So there it is. It's landed in this AP invoice email address. And so what PaperSave is going to do is it's going to automatically look to this email address and pull in the attachment. Now, keep in mind, this is all within your environment. You're not emailing these to PaperSafe. They're all in your environment. If you don't have, and if you're not utilizing this portion of PaperSafe, and you're even on version 6, listen, PaperSafe version 6 can handle this as well. But it's going to look to this email address. We don't delete the email. We actually move it to a folder called processed, so that you know that PaperSafe has looked to it. So again, here, if I come back here, mine looks to this email address about every 30 to 40 seconds. But ultimately, what's going to happen is it's going to end up in the first step of my workflow. Some of you on the line might be utilizing PaperSafe's workflow, the routing of documents for approval and review. Some of you might not be. If you're not leveraging PaperSafe's workflow, I encourage you, again, speak to your account manager and they can get you set up so documents can automatically flow through an approval process, giving you insight as to where the document is at any given time. Just for today's purposes, I'm going to show you what my workflow looks like. Each one of these gray boxes represents a possible stopping point. Now, don't worry about all the arrows, but the arrows do play an important role. As a document comes in, this initial create, that's what I just did. I just emailed that invoice to a folder that PaperSafe, or an email address PaperSafe is going to look at. And this bubble here that just popped up, good timing, that means it's in my inbox, my PaperSafe AP validation workflow inbox. And we'll go there in a second. This is the stopping point for the invoices for me to, as an accounts payable, to validate the OCR, the optical character recognition, and then to route them to an approver or approvers. They approve it. Ultimately, it ends up back inside of an accounting inbox for them to submit the data. You can have rules in the workflow that will escalate things if it's over a certain dollar amount to a certain account that you might be coding it to. But workflows are there for 3 reasons. One, to eliminate bottlenecks, right? So people don't have to make decisions on where it goes. The system's automatically going to move it. To streamline a process, again, streamlining the uploading of that document into the system. And then it's also there to give accounting insight as to where a document is at any given time. So right now, if you're using PaperSafe strictly for the capturing and the association to, or the supporting document to the transactions with inside a GP, that's great, but you're only scratching the surface of the capabilities of PaperSafe. If you're leveraging PaperSafe's workflow, fantastic. You've gone a little deeper into what PaperSafe can do. If you're not using the OCR or the AP transaction automation, where we're going to extract the data off of the invoice, and then you just push a button at the end of this process to create the transaction, that's where PaperSafe is going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of automating your process. So I'm going to take you through this. I like to show this workflow because I'm one person and I'm going to be playing all of these roles. So that invoice that I, as a pretend vendor, emailed to a pretend AP inbox, email inbox, has landed in my workflow. So I'm going to click here and I'm in that very first step. So the workflow I'm in that I just showed you is my GP non-PO invoice automation workflow. Strange name. Workflows can be named whatever you want, but that's what mine is called. And my very first step is this AP validation. So I pulled in the Fujitsu email, right? Invoice. Here it is, landed. And I can come in here and you can see that PaperSafe has already brought in all of that important information. So how does the OCR work? And I'm calling it OCR, but know that it stands for optical character recognition. PaperSafe's tool is built on artificial intelligence. And what does that mean? That means there's a lot of information already in the system that eliminates the need to teach it or build templates. So if any of you are familiar with any old formatting of OCR, you used to have to build a template for every vendor. That technology is old. You don't need that anymore. What our tool does is, if you laid out, as an example, if you laid out 100 invoices The majority of them are going to contain terms, definitions that identify what an invoice number might be, or what an invoice date might be, or what the total amount of the invoice looks like. Total due, INV hashtag, invoice NO. All of those are terms that are already built within the OCR tool. So what happens is that we are looking for the vendor name, the address block, and the phone number. That's the information that we validate against your GP database to populate this first field, right? The first field is that vendor. And we pull in the vendor ID behind the scenes because, of course, in GP, you need that. We pull in the invoice date, invoice amount, and the invoice number. Now, today's focus is on non-PO related invoices, but for those of you who utilize GP's PO purchasing process with the PO, the enter match, or the shipment invoice receiving transactions, PaperSafe can also handle those and do a 2- and 3-way match. We're not going to cover that today, but just know that we can do that, and you can speak to your account manager about that. But one of the things I do want to draw your attention to is down here in this distribution. If you're utilizing the default GL account numbers on your vendor card inside of GP, once PaperSafe finds the matching vendor, we're going to go ahead in here and put in that value that's pulled from the vendor card inside of GP. So we're doing a lot of that data entry. Now, obviously, if you don't use defaults, it's going to look like this. And you can make this field required at any of your steps along the way in the workflow. So some of my customers that I've dealt with over the years, the accounting department puts in the account number. Well, great, they can still do that. And from here, they can start typing the account number. And as I start filling in this information, you're going to see a list of account numbers, right? That come up. Again, that's looking to the table within inside of GP to populate and find that information. Now, if you're like me and you don't always remember the name or the numbers, you can type in a name this way and find all of the account numbers in your GP system that contain the word supplies, and I can fill that in. Now, I also can distribute this $13.95 across multiple accounts. I'm not going to do that today. So what happened? We got an invoice, OCR, optical character recognition happened. It looked to GP, validated the vendor, filled in all of this information, and did this data, right? Data entry, or accounting does it. Now we need to route it for an approval. So what do? Well, PaperSafe's workflow is smart enough that we can actually look to segments within the distribution to route it to that person who might be in charge of approving the invoices for the purchasing receiving department, which happens to be the 600 number in my account structure. So I can just say route to that individual, and the system automatically knows who it is, and it's going to send it to them. You also can have what we refer to as ad hoc routing, where I can now choose a name, and maybe I'm going to send it to Miles Hamilton. Oops, if I can type his name. And it's going to go, yep, you've got an approver by that name, and I can put Miles in there and route it to him. So now it leaves that AP validation step, and it goes off to Miles. I'm going to pick on ArcBest here because I want to talk about when the OCR is not 100% accurate. And I'm going to be very honest. Optical character recognition isn't going to be 100% accurate. It never will be. There's always going to be need for somebody to have that intervention to look at it. And remember, I said that if you looked at 100 invoices, that most of them are going to contain very similar information to identify the invoice date, invoice number, right? Or dollar amount or whatever. But if you look at ArcBest doesn't use those terms and regarding an invoice number and an invoice date. So the very first time I captured ArcBest, these fields were empty. Now you notice I just had to delete them because they're not empty any longer. And so what I had to do is I said, well, okay, there is no real invoice date. What date do I want to use? And this is where you can teach the system, the OCR system, PaperSave's OCR system, to become smarter and smarter the more you use it based on your vendors. So I go, okay, well, I need to identify the invoice date. So I put my cursor there. I came up to my icons. I clicked on the one that looks like a compass and it says click or drag to capture. So I clicked on that. And then I navigated to the shipment date. That's the date I wanted to use as the invoice date. I point and clicked and it populated it. I went to the invoice number. I navigated to what I wanted to use as the invoice number, point and clicked, and it populated it. Now, if ArcBest was a vendor that I got once and I never needed to, do that again, or never would have come up again, that would have been fine. But ArcBest is a vendor that you might get all the time. So now you want to build on those definitions that are already standard with inside of the OCR with your unique definition for ArcBest. So I came over to the light bulb and I said, let's learn this. We're going to learn it by a key or a definition. And I drew a box around freight bill number because that's what I wanted it to find. It says, is that what you want? I said, yes. It learned it successfully. And now every time I capture ArcBest, I never have to do that again. So think about those unique vendors or the dollar amount, right? So sometimes vendors will send an invoice that will have maybe total invoice, but then they'll have total due. Maybe that's because they're giving you a discount if you pay by a certain date, or maybe they're including a late fee, or they're including last month's because the check and the payment and the invoice crossed in the mail. So you can then make the decision based on that vendor, which total amount you want it to capture, right? So there are different things that you're going to be able to build and create and learn or teach the system so that it's very specific to your invoice, your vendor's invoices. Again, don't have to build a template for all of them. The system is very it's called artificial intelligence and built with all of that. All you're doing is now making it specific to meet the needs of your unique vendors. And then you'd route this. And again, I'm going to go ahead and choose an approver here, and we'll just keep sending things to Miles. I can find a Miles Hamilton. There we go. My typing is not good today. All right. So we've routed them. Now I've done them individually. Certainly you can look across here and I can see that I don't have reviewers for these three here. This reviewer is already populated and I can see that it's, if I click on it, it's Miles. And I can just, let's do these three. I can do mass updates as well. So if I know that these three vendors always go to a specific approver, I can choose them from my list. Maybe these three go to Cecile, great. And then I can choose the ones I want to route right away. And I can say route to, and they're going to leave my inbox and go to the approver's inbox, PaperSave workflow inbox. All right. Now, there are some unique things that you can teach the system as well. So if any of you are using that description, invoice description on the first page of that AP transaction in GP, you can teach the system to pull specific information off of the invoice. So this is not an automatic. It's not going to fill in something automatically. But if you wanted to always find whatever's under the project area for Center State, you can teach it, right? So those are just some unique things. All right, I'm going to go and I'm going to play a reviewer. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. I get to see everybody's. If you're not using the workflow, this is part of the workflow. Approvers can get email notifications and they can approve from an email. They can approve from our mobile app. They can even add documents from our mobile app. We might need to do a webcast specifically to the mobile app. If some of you are interested in that, put that in the chat area or Q&A, and we'll get that on the docket for an upcoming webcast. But approvers really are just going to approve or reject, except for those approvers that you've said need to put in the GL distribution, right? So again, that could be something that isn't done by accounting. Maybe it is done by your approvers. You want them to put that in. One of the nice things about the allowing your approvers to do that, PaperSafe can set restrictions. So if Miles, that's Sue's inbox I'm playing Miles at this point. If Miles is the manager of the services and installation department, when he types in supplies, that department happens to be depicted by the 400 number in my first segment of my account. So when he types in supplies, guess what? He's only going to get this line item to choose from, this line item to choose from, and any other ones that start with 400. He's not going to be able to see sales or admin. So you can give them the responsibility to add an account number, but not full realm of all the accounts that they should that you have in your account structure. So again, giving them that a little bit of responsibility is great, but you don't want them to be able to just willy-nilly attach or charge something to somebody else's account. So workflow, we can go deeper into workflow. If somebody's interested, again, put that into your notes if you're not using the workflow. Today's focus really was on that OCR and eliminating the manual data entry, right? So we'll talk more about workflow, but one of the things that I, from an end user's perspective on the approval part, but one thing I did mention about workflows is that it gives accounting insight as to where everything is at any given time. So if you are that accounts payable admin and you are the one who's always getting those inquiries, the calls from individuals, vendors, or team members saying, where is this? Has this been processed through the workflow? You can come into the workflow and you don't care about the step. You want to clear your step filter. So what this is going to do is it's giving me, there's 900, if you look down at the bottom here, excuse me, there's 973 documents, invoices that are in this workflow in various steps. You can see some are in AP review, some of them are in review, do not process. And I can look at the entered ones, meaning the ones that have already been submitted into GP, and I want to find one, right? So I say, come up to filter, and I want to look for the vendor number or the vendor name, and I type in, let's do LB Graph. And as I start typing this, again, PaperSafe says, yes, there's a vendor by that name, and I'm going to say apply. I've just narrowed down that 900 and some to 49. I then can put in the invoice number to filter it down even more. Now, duplicates, PaperSafe checks for duplicates. I'm not going to go into that, but I use all duplicates. I have that turned off. But now I can find the one I'm looking for, and you can see they're all in entered, and maybe I look at this do not entered one, and I go, oh, this is the one that needs attention. I can forward it to somebody else. Right now, I'm the owner, shame on me, but I can share an email and say, get in there and approve this. Simply by clicking on it, I can go in and type to me and say, Tammy, you need to approve this, high priority, send it off to me. And in that email as a hyperlink, I just click on it and I would open that up. I also can redirect things. So I can say, I want to send this off to somebody else. I don't want it to be in Tammy's. I want it to go to AP validation, and I want to send it to Holly, right? So now I've changed that. I've moved it. Holly's going to get an email and tell her to go in and approve. This is a great tool if you're also looking for things that are coming due, right? So I want to hide all of my entered. I only want to look at the active things. I can filter by date and see things that need to be approved right away, right? So this workflow with that OCR, that optical character recognition, pulling all of this information in, is going to give you immediate access to where these documents are for those inquiries that come in. All right, the last step, AP validation. And remember what I've done. I've captured documents. That OCR came in. I validated it. I routed it off. People approved it. I'm now sitting here at this last step. All right. And this is what I refer to as that last right of refusal. Everything has come into accounting. It's been distributed out to the appropriate people for approval. It's now come back to accounting, right? For that last right of refusal, do I want to submit this into GP or don't I want to, right? And so at this point, I can see where this document has been, who's approved it. Again, that's all part of the workflow. And at this point, all I have to do is hit submit. All the data entry is done, and it's going to automatically create the transaction. Now, because of the duplicates and GP not allowing duplicates within the system, right? I'm actually going to change the invoice number. That's going to allow me to submit this. Again, I've got my duplicate check in PaperSafe turned off, but I don't have my duplicate submission into GP turned off. So I'm going to hit submit. It's immediately creating that transaction. I get the next one in the stack. I'm going to again change that. I hit submit. It's creating that transaction. I get the next one. It's another ArcBest. I apologize for that. I use the same invoices over and over. We'll just go ahead and hit submit on that. And we'll do one more, okay? And hit submit. Now I'm looking at them one at a time because I want to make sure I have my GL distribution. I need to change my invoice. I like to see the workflow. You wouldn't have to do that. You can see who approved it right from here. You can see the GL distribution right from here. And then you can hit submit by hitting this button here and hit submit. All right, real quick, we've got about 4 minutes left. I'm going to pull open a document or a transaction. It's immediate interaction with GP. So what does that mean? Here's one of the transactions I just created. There's PaperSave. There's the completed workflow, right? I don't even have to have PaperSave open. Let's go back. Here's the one ArcBest where I added the 4s. It does put in the distribution as well. Remember, if that bubble disappears, you guys all know that you can come up to additional and say show documents, right? Sorry. And it opens it up. Again, here's the completed workflow. All of this is all part of that AP transaction automation, the OCR, optical character recognition, the routing through the approval process, and then the submission and the creation of the transaction with inside of GP. All right, we're down to like 3 minutes. So I'm going to go back to my slide deck here. Ashley, were there any questions that came up in the chat that I need to address?
I don't see any yet, but let's give everyone a couple of minutes. If you have any questions for Tammy that you'd like answered right now, please use the chat or the Q&A feature. If you want to wait, think about what you've seen, you can always email your account manager. And if you're not sure who to contact, thank you, Tammy, for putting this email here. You can email us at info@pearsoft.com. But we'll give you guys 1 minute and see if we've got questions. We just got one, Tammy, asking what version are you on? And I guess in terms of what you just showed, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So I'm in PaperSave 7. You saw the cloud-based version of PaperSave 7. PaperSave, if you're not on 7, PaperSave 6 has the OCR transaction automation. Excuse me. It's going to look very different than 7. I would encourage you to talk to your account manager about that. You can do the AP transaction automation within 6. It's just going to look a little different.
Another question on that note, Tammy, you were showing this in Outlook, but what if someone works in Google accounts?
Yes, PaperSave can monitor a Google account. It can also email out a Google account. We're fully integrated with that as well. And again, one of the things that your account manager can provide you is the system requirements so that you can see that and be prepared for what might need to be updated or changed, but Google Gmail is perfectly fine.
Great. We have a couple more questions. Does this work in Business Central?
Yes, it does. So if you're in Business Central or you're thinking about moving to Business Central, everything I showed you is fully capable with inside of Business Central. as well as Intact, if you're using or thinking about Intact, and Dynamics SL. So PaperSave isn't just an automation tool for GP. We have integration to all of those other accounting systems. The only difference would be the navigation with inside of the accounting system to get to the document. So GP has the additional and the bubble, SL has the bubble, and Intact and BC have a navigation along the toolbar to get to the document. So, but all of the functionality is there.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have another question. How involved does your IT department need to be in the implementation process?
That's a great question. If you're talking about the cloud version of PaperSave, very minimal. That's one of the advantages of going and being in the cloud for PaperSave. You don't have to worry about your server. Does it have enough disk space? Do you need to have another, server set up for OCR and automation? So very minimal. Now we will need to have access to link into that, but we're talking an hour or so of their time.
You talked a little bit, Tammy, about the difference between version 6 and version 7. One person is asking, I think they're in web-based version 6 and that OCR doesn't capture the invoice amount, number, or date.
Now,
do they need to upgrade, or?
They might need to upgrade or they might need to learn how to teach the system, but it should teach, it shouldn't do that. So if it's not, then I would reach out to your account manager, or if you have not met your customer success manager, you can reach out to them if you do know who they are. If not, again, you can send us an email at info@Pearsoft asking for who your customer success manager is, and they can get that taken care of for you.
We have one more question. Does PaperSave interact with all GP versions?
Of 15 and higher.
Okay.
So if you're below 15, no. But if you're 15 and higher, yes.
Okay, great. Well, those are all of our questions. Guys, thank you so much. If you have any questions that we didn't get to answer, again, please reach out to your account manager. They'll be able to get those answers to you pretty quickly. Tammy, I'll let you close us out.
Great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity. And I look forward to doing one-on-one demos with you and your account manager if you'd like to learn more. Have a great day. Bye-bye.